everybody. Welcome to Why I Love. This is a series where I talk about my favorite games and go into a little bit more depth on why I love them. And today I'm talking about the game that takes up more room than any other 6 games that I have, and that is Heroscape. Now, I'm always a little sad here when I talk about Heroscape to people, because when I talk about it and talk about how great it is, I do so knowing that it's difficult for you to find. Although if you go to Craigslist and eBay, you might be able to find it. But unfortunately, it's not in print right now, and that's because it was printed by Hasbro, and the game has to sell kabillions for them to do so. The game died out around 6 or 7 years ago. They just recently made Magic the Gathering, the Planeswalkers, the board game, which was very similar to Heroscape, but that one died out too, so, it is what it is. But why do I love it? First of all, the toy factor. Like I said, this game takes up a lot of room. Why is that? Because I had bins and bins filled with the terrain. The terrain in Heroscape is unbelievably designed, and no other terrain really has come close to it. These hexagon pieces that fit together and easily come apart, but when they fit together, they stay together and they stack, and you can build huge, giant vistas of this stuff. And when Heroscape was not so expensive, you could just buy lots and lots of sets of it. They came out with lots of expansions with more terrain, and you could just build these big giant things. It was really cool. It looks amazing. When you play Heroscape, people stop and they look. And it isn't just the terrain, of course, even though that was unique and fascinating and cool. It was the toy of the models. All kinds of models, big dragons and robots and U.S. soldiers and colonials and gladiators. And there's just so many cool little models. It looks really neat on the table. Putting the terrain together gives me an idea of Lego. I really like Lego and putting things together, and Heroscape has that same thing. When I go online, and by the way, there's a site called heroscapers.com, which has a lot of great info and ways to build things, and I would download, here's how to build a new Heroscape setup, and we build it. I had fun just building it when it's done. It feels a sense of accomplishment just like Lego. The game is anachronistic, where you're going to have people from all different types of history. You have, like I said, gladiators. You have robots from the future. You have these weird aliens. They made a Marvel superhero set. They have Revolutionary War soldiers, like I said. They have Vikings. There's stuff from all over the place. Near the end, they mostly were doing Dungeons and Dragons stuff, but it kind of all fit together. Now, normally I'm not a big fan of something like that in a game per se if it feels out of place, but here that was the theme of the game. The theme of the game is, for some reason, chunks of history are all coming together, and it's so much fun. It's fun to be like, so how does a robot work against some ghosts? How do these zombies work against, these knights from the old time? And you can do that. It's like, we've always wanted to have these kind of battles. It kind of gives you that childish glee as you're like, I've always wanted to take these two very different things and have them fight each other. And the game is actually pretty simple. There's not a complex game involved. There's actually a family game, which is actually too simple. And then the regular game, which everyone plays with special powers and stuff. But it's pretty easy. Line of sight is simple. Each figure shows a little silhouette of it on the card. It shows what parts and so you just look, can I see that? Oh, I can only see their gun. Well, that gun doesn't count for line of sight. Wow, I wish more games did this. Very, very cool. The movement was pretty simple. You have 6 movement, move 6 hexes. No measuring, no all that stuff. If you go up, it costs an extra 1 for each level you go up. And road gave you some extra movement, and you have to stop in water. That's it. Not complex at all. Very simple. There's a couple other extra pieces of terrain that changed a few minor things, but very, very minor. Movement was easy. Combat's easy. I get 6 attack dice, you get 4 defense. I roll, I'm looking for hits. You roll, you're looking for blocks. That's it. Now, some sets had the hits and the defense on the same dice, some had them on different dice, but it didn't matter. It's a 50% chance of hitting per die, it's a 33% chance of defending per die, and it's just simple combat system. And then the special abilities. Now, this is where the complexity of the game comes in, but it's not that complex. Each character had maybe 2 special abilities, but it'd be like, here's a special attack you could do, or here's an extra thing this character has. And it was just a lot of fun to say, well, here, this person, they get 2 attacks, and this guy his attacks get stronger the more damage he takes, and this person has a flame attack which hits everything, and this person rolls a 20-sided die and might be able to eat somebody, or this person can mind warp somebody onto my team. So many different abilities, and this is where the game really shone. The game had more depth, though. Even though it was simple, the army building in this game is fun, right? You have 400-point armies, whatever you want to pick, and you sit there and go, should I, do I want to take a couple of these big guys? I want to take some small guys, and just add the points together. Very simple and easy to put that army together. And then the action selection on a turn, I can activate this. I can just keep making my one guy run. But if I do so, I'm using this one person to shore up the whole army, and I got to be careful. And the game was pretty cool by having heroes and squads, and the heroes are much more powerful than the squads, but the squads have like multiple figures. And what's really fascinating about Heroscape, and what really makes this game interesting, are the glyphs. Most games, most miniature games, you go and destroy the opponent, so you just move in and you fight each other. Well, that's how Heroscape is to some degree, but there's glyphs, and these glyphs give a bonus to your whole army as long as you have someone on it. Well, that you can put those strategically around the map to make people run for those spots, to stand on those spots, to be there on those spots, so that they can, get that bonus, but it also makes you move into positions you might not move in otherwise. Really great system there. Heroscape, I mentioned heroscapers.com, but there's a really strong community. Even though Heroscape is gone, you can go to heroscapers.com. They might help you find sets there. They are constantly making new stuff. There's so many miniatures out there that they make new cards for that work with the game pretty well. I really like how these cards work. And so I have to say, again, I love the game for its visual look. You look at it with all the pieces, it looks like the middle of a battlefield, looks like this really expensive miniatures game. Well, which of course it is a little bit now because it's hard to find how to print, but I didn't have to paint anything, I didn't have to do anything, and it looks really cool. These stories that I tell about this game, I'll be like, oh, remember this one time when this happened and a robot blew up and killed this person, and right when you were about to hit me with the Incredible Hulk, me and Melody still remember very distinctly a game that happened almost 10 years ago now, where she took the Incredible Hulk and Abomination and fought against a huge army of mine, and she won, but barely. Very fun game that we still talk about. Has that David versus Goliath feel where there's that one guy and here comes the dragon, but that one guy might get that hit on that dragon. And games don't take that long. Now, Heroscape's not perfect. I rank it a 10, which is a perfect rating, but that's because it would be like a 12 and it just comes down maybe a few points. It takes a while to set up. You got to build the thing. I love doing it. I love building the Lego thing, but it takes a while to do it. It takes a lot of storage room. Like I said, there's a whole shelving unit in my house that is dedicated to just Heroscape. But I don't care. It is amazing. It is a game that I will not get rid of. It is the one game I have, I think, where I own everything for it. I hunted everything down because I like it that much. It works for adults. It attracts kids. It is a game that someday my grandkids are going to come over and be like, what is this amazing thing? And I'll be like, yeah, they don't make games like they used to. They do, but still, amazing fun. Heroscape. That's why I love it.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.